All right, boys and girls, this is your first chapter in Wisconsin Adventures. And if you want to really think about looking at your learning guide, you should also be doing that as well. And as you can see, you have your learning guide here. And just a review of what your goals are for this particular lesson. Because you've already worked on main idea and detail in reading, we're going to also work on that in social studies. So if we see chapter 1, it's called The Land. And it says the Ice Age. The main idea of Ice Age is what? And you'll write complete sentences there. And this number, the number 3 here, just means how many points that is. Then you have to give me supporting details. Make a bullet list. You get 3 points. You do not need to write sentences here. You can just put a couple words on each. After the Ice Age, the main idea of after the Ice Age is, once again, do complete sentences there as well. Supporting details. Make a bullet list. That is also worth 3 points. You can just write words. You don't have to write complete sentences. Rivers and lakes. The main idea of rivers and lakes is what? Okay. Chapter 1, the land, continuing. We have supporting details. Make a bullet list. Rivers and lakes. That is also worth 3 points. Then when you come to this section, it says describe each area, regions of Wisconsin. There are 5 areas of Wisconsin: Lake Superior lowlands, the western uplands, the central plains, the northern highlands, the eastern ridges and lowlands. What you're going to do is you're going to describe each. You don't have to write sentences. You can just give me some details. You just need to know that there are 5 different regions of Wisconsin, and each region is different. When you look at these 2 maps and in your textbook, they're a lot clearer than probably on your learning guide. But it says, what do these maps tell you? What do they really tell you? What do they help you understand? You need complete sentences, and those are also worth 3 points. Then there's this activity that says, events that caused the land to change. What was the result or the effect of these changes? Miners dumped waste into some Wisconsin lakes. What was the effect? It ruined some lakes. See if you can find one more cause and effect. All right, so let's go to the text so we can continue to read. And you can either read out of your book, especially if you are reading independently, or you can follow along here as well. And I'm going to start on this page where it says long ago, and I believe that's page 7. Here we go. Long ago, Wisconsin was a land of mountains, plateaus, and plains. An ancient people ranged across the land hunting game, including huge elephant-like mammoths. There was plenty of food for both the hunters and the animals. The Ice Age. The weather turned much colder. Mountains of ice, called glaciers, moved down from the north. The glaciers moved down 4 times, each time melting and then coming again. Sometimes a glacier grew to be a mile thick and many miles long and wide. It moved over the land like a giant bulldozer. When the glacier moved, it crushed and shifted everything beneath it. And you can see in your textbook, Miss N didn't take the picture of that one, but it does say giant mastodons roamed North America from 3.75 million years to 10,000 years ago. Mastodons are related to mammoths and modern elephants, so that you can look back in your book if you'd like as well. Next column. Ice covered Canada and many northern states. It covered almost all of Wisconsin. Only the southwest corner was not covered by ice. Food was very scarce. There was not enough for the huge mammoths to eat. They died out. The hunters and their families moved south to warmer lands to find food. The ice covered the land for a long time. This period of time is called the Ice Age. During the Ice Age, people and animals lived far south of Wisconsin. Each time the ice moved south, its great weight changed the way the earth looked. It crushed everything in its path. It flattened plateaus. It dug wide ditches through the rocks and soil. When the ice melted the last time, the land surface had changed greatly. Land in the north of Wisconsin was rich enough for trees to grow. The south was mostly rolling plains. After the Ice Age, the last glacier melted over 10,000 years ago. Wisconsin was left with many rivers and streams. Thousands of sparkling lakes lay between the rolling hills. In fact, Wisconsin lies between the largest lake and the greatest river in the nation. Thus, its climate is often milder than that of nearby states. Wisconsin winters are still very cold. However, in the summers are fairly hot. The climate in the northern part of the state is cool and wet. In the north, snow covers the ground for about 140 days each winter. The long winter makes the growing season short. In the south, the climate is warmer and drier. The south gets some warm air from the Gulf of Mexico. Still, snow covers the ground for about 85 days each winter. Rain usually falls between May and September. Water from rainfall and melting snow brings moisture for growing crops. Oops, hang on a second. The glacier affected the soil. In some places, it left behind deposits of minerals and decayed plants and animals. In those places, the soil is very rich. Good soil is found in the southeast part of the state near Lake Winnebago. Rich soil is also found in the Fox Valley and along the shores of Lake Michigan. There is good soil also in the Driftless area in the southwest, where the glacier did not reach. And you can see this picture, it's better in your textbook. It says Wisconsin's northern forests have many evergreens, also called conifers, because they produce pine cones. So we can go back up to the top, and there's just a little bit here left. Fine crumbled sandstone formed soil in the Central Plains. It is too sandy to be rich farmland. With good farming practices, farmers grow some crops, such as hay and potatoes. So if you're ready, you can also go back to your learning guide and think about what is the main idea of the Ice Age, and then you can pause the recording and then go back and continue with your reading. All right, go ahead. All right, if you're ready, we're going to start the forests, and we're going to also read that and take a break when you need to. The forests. After the ice melted, the area did not look as it does today. There were very few plants of any kind because it was too cold for them. Over a long time, the climate grew warmer. Trees began to grow and forests spread across the northern part of the state. Spruce, white pine, aspen, and hardwood trees grew thick. They became so thick that people could get lost in the forests. Evergreens, such as pine trees, grew thicker in the north. Hardwood trees, including oak and maple, grew thicker in the south. By 1900, the forests were almost gone. The trees had been cut down for logs, lumber, and paper. Replanting and proper care have restored many of the trees. They will never look like they did before people cut them down. Wisconsin still has paper mills. However, most of the wood pulp they use to make paper comes from Canada. And let's look at the caption here. It says Wisconsin has over 8,000 lakes. This is Lake Winnebago, the largest lake in Wisconsin. Rivers and lakes. When the glaciers melted, the land warped upward. When the shape of the land changed, drainage changed. The rainwater and melted snow drained to the rivers and lakes. Because of the changes, some streams flowed to the east and some to the west. Over 20,000 miles of rivers and streams drain water from the state. The Wisconsin River flows west to the Mississippi River. Then the water flows south into the Gulf of Mexico. The Fox River, the Wolf River, and Lake Winnebago form a water system. And let's go back up to the top here. Whoops, Miss N went too far, didn't she? This map shows the last major advance of ice across the area. That is now Wisconsin. The big sheets of ice are called glaciers, and as you can see, and it missed us here in Cashton, didn't it? Water flows eastward from this system into the Great Lakes. From the Great Lakes, it flows into the St. Lawrence and on into the Atlantic Ocean. The Wisconsin and the Fox Rivers flow close to each other near Portage. They flow in opposite directions. Lake Superior and Lake Michigan border the state. They are two of the 5 Great Lakes. The other 3 are Lakes Huron, Ontario, and Erie. All of the Great Lakes were formed by glaciers. Melted glacial ice filled the lakes with water. Water borders the state on 3 sides. Lake Superior forms part of the northern border. Lake Michigan forms most of the eastern border. The Mississippi River forms the western border. Wisconsin is in the Midwest region of the United States. 4 states share borders with Wisconsin. Michigan shares a border with Wisconsin between Lake Superior and Lake Michigan. Illinois shares the southern border. Iowa and Minnesota border Wisconsin on the west. And as you can see, there's a map on the next page, and it says about 70,000 to 12,000 years ago, big areas of ice covered Wisconsin. The fingers of ice that cover the area are called lobes. This map shows the main lobes of ice that were in the Great Lakes region long ago. So let's just go ahead and finish this little part here. There are over 8,000 lakes in the state. The largest is Lake Winnebago. The Dells are a favorite tourist spot in the state. Near the Dells, the Wisconsin River flows through narrow gorges. Scenic forests and cliffs overlook the Swift River. It is a beautiful and unusual sight. So now if you think about it, you could really go back to your graphic or your learning guide, and I can actually make this a little bit smaller. So if you go back to your learning guide in Rivers and Lakes, you can look at the main idea of river and lakes. They're really a big part of Wisconsin, and they really are useful to our economy and to our lives, aren't they? They really are. And then you can go back and look for some details. So this ends part 1 of the video for chapter 1. If you have any questions, please ask, and remember to always pause when you need to.